Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at this set of 120 color pencils. And this is a kind of a mystery set. It's a little unusual. It's, I'm not really sure who the manufacturer is of this, but these were sent to me by Andstal Stationery, which is an AliExpress shop. They seem to be one of the more reputable shops on AliExpress, and I have reviewed products from them before, and they've mostly been really nice quality products. In fact, I can't think of any that really were disappointing. I feel like they do deliver a good value for money in their shop, and they do seem to curate. I don't know if they manufacture these products or if they just curate better ones, because sometimes I'll see the things that they sell in other shops on AliExpress or on Amazon. Now, complete full disclosure, I did not purchase these. They were sent to me for review. I've actually never shopped on AliExpress, so I can't really give you any advice or vouch for anything on that marketplace, but I do know a lot of artists purchase supplies on AliExpress and have really good luck. So I just want to be completely transparent with that. Yeah, so this is what they look like. When I first got this package, I thought, boy, this looks familiar. What does this remind me of? And what it reminded me of was the branding of the Faber Castel Polychromos, or actually Faber Castel in general. So this is what the Polychromos looks like. It's got a darker background. It's kind of like a really, really dark hunter green with gold writing. But I thought that the font, that like the typeface and like the artwork with the thin gold border around it was reminiscent, or this was reminiscent to this. So that kind of like piqued my interest. I'm like, these look like they're trying to look like Faber Castel products. And even the way like the pencils come in, I'll show you the Albright Drawer watercolor pencils, which are a beautiful watercolor pencil. Just the way like their pencils kind of come in at this angle, it reminded me a lot of how those pencils came in at that angle. And I thought, gee, I wonder if this is another set trying to duplicate Polychromos. And then it got even more interesting. So let's take a look here at this box. So there's 120 pencils in this very compact box. I am a sucker for unique stationery packaging. I don't know what it is. I just... I can't resist it. I love unique stationery packaging. So it's got this fairly sturdy chipboard box. The corners were a little bit dented, which was unusual because the package came so well protected in a bubble wrap. And generally, actually every time I've gotten anything from Andstal, their packaging has been top notch and their shipping has been fairly quickly. Now, I don't know if that's typical if you order from them or if it's just they knew they were sending it to me for review, so they wanted to get it to me promptly. I'm not sure, but that was my experience. So then within the box, you have a bunch of little envelopes with pencils in them. I think I might take out one first and then slide the rest out. So you've got this little box like that. And then you have these envelopes. And they're pretty much organized by color. The neat thing about these is that you can actually fold it under, fold up the little lip there. Hopefully my camera can cope with focusing here. And then you can tuck that in. And this can stand up on your table while you're working and not take up a ton of space. Probably would take up a little more space than jars, obviously, but not bad. And you can actually fold them. You could kind of, if you want to keep them in the box, which is really difficult to get them out if you have them all in the box, but you could have the envelopes just like kind of folded back like that and stand them all up in the box. But you can see that you got that little stand if that's something you're interested in. I don't know how well this is going to hold up with repeated folding and tucking, because you know when you keep creasing a paper, how it tends to break down and eventually tear. I'm afraid that could happen, but I do like that, you know, you could really sharpen your pencils down quite a bit and still be able to see the colors. My old Prismacolors, my original Prismacolors I got in like 1980, they had a box where the box would kind of fold. You'd slide it up and you fold it over and put it down, and it would fold them up in like 2 layers, which was great until the pencils got a little too short that they would kind of fall behind the ones in front of them. But, you know, it was nice and compact, and as a child, when you're just working on like, you know, a child-sized desk, it was really, really handy. So I think something like this would be nice for like a beginner or a child where they don't have a ton of space, and also it's pretty cute. So we can take a look at the color selection here. And you know, it's a pretty nice color selection. Let's see, maybe I can spread them all out like that. We can take a look. Not too shabby. Actually, you could even lay them down like this on your table, and I don't think it would take that much space. And then the benefit of doing that is that, well, they do kind of want to roll. I was thinking maybe you could take them out and put them back, and you could let them hang over a little bit, the colors you used, so that way you wouldn't have a million pencils. Like, because usually what I do is I leave the pencils on my table while I'm working so that I'll know what colors I used. But something like this, if I laid them down like that, then I could just leave them kind of stuck out a little bit, the colors I'm using. That would actually work really well for me, I think. So something to think about there. But this is just like a cardstock weight, I would say, just to give you an idea of how durable those would be. And for it to fit in a small package, then, you know, it'd have to be kind of like that. But let's take a look at our Polychromos, though, just to show you kind of like a comparison. They're very similar. And in fact, one thing I noticed is that the numbers are identical. 120 colors here have the exact same numbers as 120 colors here, and that's on purpose. That has to be on purpose. And when you add that with the similarities in the packaging, I think this is kind of like a subtle, hey, if you like Polychromos, you're going to like these. So let's compare a couple of these side by side with Polychromos. I'll try to find the exact same color. Let's see, this one is 142. 142 right here. So I'm just taking at random. So if we look at these two pencils here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit and hopefully we stay in focus. If we look at these two pencils here, you can see the similarities already. The pencils are the same size. I hope that doesn't get too blurry. The pencil's the same size. They both have capped ends. My Polychromos are pretty old, and they're long because honestly, and this is something that I'm trying not to let cloud my judgment here, Polychromos are not my favorite pencils. When I first got them, I bought a few open stock. I thought I was really going to like them. And I just, first of all, I think they were kind of expensive, so they were a little precious, so I was always using my Prismacolors more. And then I think the more I developed my techniques, the more I realized I really like colored pencils more as a mixed media thing, as far as in contrast to like doing work all in colored pencils. So I just tend to go for more opaque, softer pencils. But anyway, the branding is very similar. So on the Polychromos, it says Germany, Polychromos, Faber Castel, and then you've got the color, and then you've got the number. So here we have high quality on this side, and we turn it over, we got smooth pinting. I think it's a misspelling of the word painting, and then it says bright colors, and then artist colored pencils or artist color pencils, and then the number. The number 142 is the same number as on the Faber Castel. The Faber Castel has a qualifying number beforehand, which is just a line, the series, like 9201 must be Polychromos, and the Faber Castel has light fastness rating, and the Andstal does not. I'll sharpen that up. Lead thickness seems to be identical. Barrel thickness seems to be identical. These are a glossier finish, but then again, the new Polychromos may have more of a glossier finish. They both have that frustrating gold writing on the barrels, which are very difficult to read. And honestly, if I wasn't specifically looking to compare the numbers, it might not have even occurred to me that these have the same numbers as Polychromos, but there are just too many similarities in the look of everything that I had to check. Capped ends, yeah, I mean, very, very similar. Now, the lead colors look a little bit different, and I actually went through and I compared all the colors. So let's see if this is one that is a good match or one that's not a good match. Oh, you know what? That's a pretty good match. That's not too shabby. And the feel of laying these down, they feel identical. So they did a good job at capturing the pigment strength and the feel of Polychromos. So if you like Polychromos and you're looking for a cheaper version or something to practice with so you're not using up your Polychromos, these might be a good option for you because you wouldn't have that issue of like going back and forth and trying to adapt to different pencils. So let's take a look at the swatches and we can see exactly how different they are. I think I might actually leave my camera zoomed in. Let me just see. Now I gotta zoom out a little bit. I'm just trying to think how can I show you the most on camera here. I think this might work. All right, so I've got, I swatched these out on white, I swatched them out on craft, and I swatched them out on black, and we're gonna compare them here. I'm just going to try not to This was so awkward. This is not the first time I went to film this because it was so awkward. Like I had all the papers big and I was just like trying to fold them and so you could show you the color side by side, and it was so awkward. Opacity wise, I would say they're very similar. Maybe like the white, looking at the whites, which I only did on the darker colors. Gosh, they're strength wise, I would say maybe the Polychromos has a slight more opacity, but it's pretty similar. I think that was ivory. Those were pretty close. The next color I had was not very close, so I'm just going to line them up here. Maybe, is that going to be easy or hard to see? You know, I'm thinking maybe I should zoom in more and actually just move these pencils out of the way. So let me do that. I don't know how long this review is going to take. Hopefully I can do it within a half an hour. Gosh, should we do like that? I don't know, guys. Okay, so let's start with these kind of like light yellow color. Very much the same. The next color down, difference. There was a difference between, and these were all colored. I match these by the numbers that they put on them. So the Polychromos was more of I think that was ivory. It had more of a true ivory color, and the other one was more of just like a pastel yellow. So that was weird. That didn't match at all, which is too bad because that's a color I use a lot when I'm doing colored pencils. Then we have this bright yellow, same. Maybe the Andstal one might have been a little bit more opaque. The next colors, same, next colors, same, next colors, same. And the reason I do it on all three is because sometimes you'll notice a big discrepancy in pigmentation on a darker color. But these are oil-based pencils, more translucent than wax-based pencils, and I'm really not noticing a big difference between the colors. Now keep in mind, my Polychromos pencils are older. I bought them back when I had my studio downtown, so that was at least 18 years ago. And because I was doing some colored pencil classes, I like to have that variety of pencils, and I just didn't find that I preferred those. Let's see. Oh, there we are. So this one's slightly different. The Polychromos is a little bit more reddish, and the Andstal's a little more orange, and the Andstal's a little smoother and a little bit more opaque, which would stand to reason if it's a lighter color. It would often look more opaque. This one, the Andstal one's a little bit brighter. Now, if you look at these three colors, now, and it's also the same with the Polychromos, these colors look very similar, like they're almost the same. Same thing with some of the yellows, but I'm also seeing that with the Polychromos counterparts, so that doesn't really concern me too much. That's a little different. The Andstal one's a little bit stronger. That one's maybe a little bit more cool. That one's a little bit more warm. That would be right there. So a little bit of difference there. And I also noticed that they're about the same on black. I'm just counting 4 down from the bottom, so I don't get too. I did not swatch these very consistently. I mean, as far as the boxes being the same size. Like these two reds from Andstal look identical, but then here on Polychromos, I noticed that one is different, looks a little bit differently. So I feel like there are a few colors as we go through the Andstal colors that, this is right out of the way, that were too samey, where like there was a little bit more difference in the Polychromos version. So this one I'll just have these go right around our white version. Very similar there. The Andstal might be a little bit darker, but maybe, and I'm noticing on Polychromos is a little bit more opaque on the black for that particular color. Those two look the same. This one, we have a little bit of a difference. On the Polychromos, there was actually an Andstal color that looked pretty close to that on the previous swatch. So not a perfect match there. And the Polychromos is a little bit more opaque on that one. But we can just kind of, why don't I go through? That one is not a perfect match. That's not perfect. It's close though. That looks pretty good. That's a little off. That's pretty good. That's a little off. The Polychromos is a little bit lighter and actually a little bit streakier. And that could be the age of my pencils, that maybe that happens after a while. That one's a little off. The purples seem to have the most colors that were a little off. That one doesn't show on the toned paper, but I can see a little bit of it being off on the white. That's a little bit different. Those two, all the rest of these look pretty darn close. That one, Polychromos, is a little bit darker. But, and on the black, I'm noticing that on this one, the Polychromos is more translucent and the Andstal is a little bit more opaque. Then we'll go to the next row. We'll go to the blues. This is probably more than you ever want to know. of these pencils. Did I, oh gosh, did I push all those all the way up? Now I'm paranoid that I didn't show you that bottom part of the swatch. I just want to make sure you saw that. I know it's hard to see the black, especially with the blues, because they're a darker value color. Then we'll go in here. I don't know if anyone's curious on purchasing these, but at least you'll know. It's fun to know things. It's fun to know about different supplies. Looking through, the blues look really good. The matches on the blues look really good. That one's a little bit off that denim color. The Polychromos is a little bit more blue, and the other one's a little bit darker, a little closer to navy. That one's a little close to like a cool blue. But I'm really finding the blues and the greens to be pretty good. That green's a little off there. I'm noticing the Andstal's a little bit lighter and a little more opaque, but not too bad. I feel like there's definitely other colors you could pick if one color doesn't match perfectly. But the nice thing about this is that if you were strapped and you wanted 120 Polychromos colors because you follow an artist that uses these pencils and you want to be able to like follow a tutorial and use the same color numbers, then that would do the trick. You'd be able to do that. Even the ones that are off aren't that far off. The greens look pretty good. This neon-y color here is a little bit off. The you don't notice it so much on the tone paper, but definitely on the white. It almost looks like a neon from Polychromos, and it's more of like a spring green in the Andstal. The rest of the greens look pretty good. I think the Andstal is a little more pigmented than that one from Polychromos. Let's slide those up. Like this sagey color here, you can see it's really light from Polychromos and it's quite dark from Andstal. So that color, I would call that a miss. And the Polychromos is much more opaque because it's lighter. So that would make sense, had more white in it. Those gold looks good. The browns, I feel like some of the browns aren't perfect matches, but I don't know if it's enough that would mess up like a tutorial. Like that one's just more yellowy and that one's a little bit more reddish. Value-wise, they're fairly similar. And you can't really tell on the toned paper because the undertones kind of get lost. The rest of those look all right. Now again, you have that situation where you got some samey colors there, but you also do on the Polychromos. So I think I was kind of nitpicking when I was looking at them earlier, thinking that they had too many samey colors. So let's do this one now here. Well, this one's a little like that. Brown's a little bit redder than the Andstal version. And like this, the Andstal version of this reddish brownish color is a little more purple. But overall, I think the matches are pretty good. That one's just slightly off. That one's slightly off. That one's slightly off. But let's see, is there something else that would work in that? So that's it's a little disappointing when your slightly off color doesn't have a version in Andstal that's quite right. So that if you're doing skin tones, that might be an issue there. But that's just one color, and you're not going to be just using one color for skin tones. Those look pretty good. Now here's an issue here. The bronze color, it was very weird, and I'm just going to grab that pencil for you because it was the strangest thing. I actually sharpened it, and I'm looking at the pencil, and I can see on the side of the pencil I see bronze, but on the inside of the pencil I see gold. So I'm going to sharpen this real quick. So look at this. It's weird. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera. Look at this. We've got this bronze on the outside and gold at the top. If I go like this, you can see the bronze on like the outside of the lead and it's gold on the inside of the lead. I don't know what freaky thing happened in that factory, but it's like they had a gold lead and they dipped it in bronze. It's so strange. But when you color on the tip, you're getting gold, even though this is supposed to be like a bronze or a copper pencil. So that definitely did not match. Did I show? I think I started up there, right? I was just making sure that you can see all the swatches. I'm just going to slide it up through again so you can see. But so that was a big mismatch. I don't know if it's on other sets or if I just got the Lucky Magic pencil or what, but that was kind of weird. But the silver was pretty decent. I think the Polychromos is a little more shimmery and the Andstal is just a little bit more of a pearl. So Polychromos gets the edge for a more of a glittery color. That is the Polychromos black and that is the Andstal black. I just swatched them by mistake on the wrong side. Very similar. I don't know, but the Polychromos might be a little bit more black, but it's really hard to say because it's so close. Up there's a Polychromos black. That's the Andstal black. I mean, it's really kind of too close to call, I think. And then, oops, I'm just going to fold this back because I did not cut this. I wasn't thinking about going side by side like that, and I think it makes more sense to do that. So there they are again, the blacks. And you can't tell on the black paper really. Polychromos is a little more opaque, I guess. I can see it on the black paper a little bit more. So it looks lighter on the black paper, which is weird. The grays are not perfect, but they're like that one's a little more blue, one's a little less blue. But overall, I think they're pretty good. Like this gray here has a little more of a green tint in the Andstal, but is a little bit more neutral in the Polychromos. Same with that one. But the beigey, the warm grays are good. The cool grays, I guess, are a little bit off. The cool grays have a little bit of a greenish tint in Andstal, but they are, I don't know if that even shows up on camera, a little more greener. But the warm grays have good undertones. They look the same. Those two, apparently, I forgot to swatch the first time through, but that's all right. You see them there. So I think color matching by number, they did a pretty good job. I think there was a couple situations where I thought maybe they made the same pencil twice, you know, like they misprinted one. I'm trying to see. That's what I was thinking at one point, but maybe not, because as I look through the swatch here, maybe I'll just put this so we can see it all together on one page. There were a couple I thought, well, maybe they just did that same color in two pencils, but now I'm not seeing the two that I thought looked really similar anymore. Well, maybe those two, like it seems like that color and that color look the same. Like they should have had one that was a little bit more earthy. But other than that, I think they did a really good job there at duplicating the feel of the Polychromos and duplicating the colors of the Polychromos. So price-wise, a set of 120 Polychromos on Blick today, and this isn't retail, but this is what they're charging, is $170. The same on Amazon. Retail price is over $300, but I'm just going to go by what you'd actually pay, because we shop, we try to get a good deal, right? And then the retail price of the Andstal, these guys right here, for 120 is currently $59.25. So about a third of the price. It's about a third of the price. Maybe a little more than a third of the price. And then open stock Polychromos pencils around $269, I think, on Blick. So it is a more open stock. But the thing that is kind of, because I'm always a little ethically, like, just like, should I review these products and promote them when they are, like, this is clearly a dupe of a high quality famous brand product. But if you used up one color, you're not going to rebuy this whole set. You're going to go buy the Polychromos in that color. So if you're looking for something to start out with while you're learning and you're not really concerned about light fastness, because even though this says good light fastness, there's no proof, there's no testing, whereas Polychromos has had testing done. You could always do your own light fast testing, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not that interested. If I'm going to do a colored pencil piece that I'm worried about fading, I'm going to use my Derwent Light Fast pencils or my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils just to be safe. Anyway. But if you were just learning and you wanted a cheaper set, knowing that you want to get Polychromos eventually, this would be a good set to start with, save some money, get used to the feel of those pencils, and then when you move over to Polychromos, you're not really going to notice a difference. You won't have to adapt to those pencils too. So I think there's a place for these. They are kind of expensive, considering other budget pencils now are generally around $30 or $40 for 120 set of decent budget pencils, but I do find that the pencils from Andstal do tend to be a little bit higher quality, and they're also a little bit more expensive. So that's just something that I've noticed. So now I wanted to compare the Polychromos in a couple little tests to the Andstal Masters. I think that's what they're calling them, Andstal Master Pencils. It's weird because there's no, wording is not on the box. It's so strange. I'll link to it. I don't earn anything off of you purchasing something from AliExpress, so if that's a factor in your consideration, just don't let it be. Buy them if you think they're going to be useful to you. As with anything, buy it if you think it's going to be useful to you, and otherwise don't. I just used some Bristol here. And I was doing a layering test. I used the same color number. This is 194, not a perfect match in color between those, but I just grabbed one at random. I was able to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers with the Andstal Masters, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers with Polychromos. Keep in mind I'm a human, so there could be some humor variation there. So keep that in mind. I'm not someone who likes to use layering personally. Now let's see how they do with water. So the Andstal Masters do move with water here on this swatch. Let's see how Polychromos does. Polychromos moves a little bit with water, but not nearly as much. Now let's try Odorless Mineral Spirits since we're at it, since we're right here and we got the stuff going. Oh, I hope I still have some in there. I didn't close that up very well the last time I used it. Oh, good, it's still juicy. Polychromos, yes, moves with the odorless mineral spirits. We all knew that. And so does Andstal. The Andstal actually moves a little bit more. So they are a nicely pigmented pencil. I will give them that. And honestly, I would probably say most of my non-enthusiasm, is that a word? I don't know, of these pencils are just the fact that I prefer a softer pencil. So don't let that, I don't poop on your party. If you love Polychromos, that's great. You'll like these too. All right, so I did a swatch on watercolor paper, the Polychromos and the Andstal identically, and then I added water, and you can see the Andstal definitely moved a lot more with water. And then I thought, gee, they don't seem water soluble enough to be considered a watercolor pencil. So I'm like, let me compare them with the Albrecht Dürer, which are Faber Castell's watercolor pencils. They use the same color numbering system. So I use the same colors, and you can see the Albrecht Dürer definitely are watercolor pencils. They liquefied beautifully, no streaking, no graininess. I didn't see any of my pencil lines, so they are not as water soluble as the Albrecht Dürers. They definitely feel like the Polychromos going down, with the benefit of having a little bit more water solubility if that's what you want. Their water solubility level reminds me of the original Arteza pencils that when they first came out. These are harder than those original Arteza pencils though. If you're picky about that. I thought they felt quite similar until I actually swatched out one of my Artezas and then one of the Marco Tributes, and I also did a Mark Art. I'm like, yeah, those other pencils are softer. They're more like a Holbein. These are definitely harder like a Polychromos. And I would say they're definitely oil-based with how they move with water. You generally don't see that water solubility if it's a wax-based pencil. Just in my experience anyway. So then I decided to grab one of these little, I used some watercolors for some backgrounds and a bunch of cards on watercolor paper, and I'm like, I'm going to color these eventually and use them on cards. And so the top one was the Andstal pencils, the bottom one was the Polychromos. I used the same colors by color number, and I actually thought that the Andstal colors were richer. They looked brighter and more vivid, but I think that is to do with the fact, not necessarily that they're more pigmented, which they may or may not be, I'm not sure, but the fact that they are water soluble, because after I put that first layer on, I added water, let it dry, and then I went over it again. So because that first layer could dissolve more than the Polychromos, just by the nature of the beast, by their makeup, I think that's why it looks a little more lush, but very similar in application. They feel the same to use. And then I did this piece with just the Andstal, just to see what sort of effects I would get on a sanded paper with it, because I tend to use sanded paper if I'm using a harder pencil. And there you go. I think they're decent. I think you can give them a shot if you want. I don't think they're really a budget pencil because they're a little expensive for that, but they're definitely a lot cheaper than the Faber Castel Polychromos. So if that's your cup of tea, check out the links in the video description and you can find them. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you liked it. And until next time, happy crafting.